Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Eau de Treasure. I'm Steven. Thanks for coming back to another episode, except this episode is a little bit different because I'm talking about modern fragrances. So most of you guys know that my channel is about my hobby of living in Japan and collecting discontinued, vintage, rare, and interesting fragrances because they seem to be falling from trees here in Japan. I usually buy used bottles and try them out of vintage stuff and just tell you what I think about it. This is not really a review channel. I'm just hitting record and showing you my hobby with fragrances. But this one is kind of like a review channel because I have these fragrances that I've bought this year. And you know me, I rarely ever open up brand new fragrances and try them out. But I'm going to do that for this video. I'm going to open these up and try them out. And this one's already open. The first one, this one is called Guess Seductive Homme Blue. And then this one is called Ted Lapidus Poker Face. The next one here, these are two Lattafa fragrances. Lattafa Al Nashama Caprice or Caprice Al Nashama. And then this one is kind of just like a bonus one. This was like $15 on Fragrance X. And this is Lattafa Ejaazi Intense Silver. So what do these have in common? Why did I choose these? Well, they all resemble Yves Saint Laurent La Nuit De L'Homme, a very popular modern fragrance. Now, this one is supposed to resemble La Nuit De L'Homme Bleu Electrique. Now, I don't have Bleu Electrique. It's not easy to get, and I refuse to pay for it. I refuse to pay $200 for 100 ml. Or $150 for a 60 ml. If I, by some miracle, if I find a used bottle here and I buy it quickly for maybe $50 or $60, then I'll have it. Or if I get a decant like this one. But other than that, I'll just compare this to regular La Nuit De L'Homme. This one actually is a deodorant body spray. And this is the Guess Seductive Homme Bleu. This is the body spray version of this fragrance. And I picked this up on my trip to America this year. This was at Walgreens. It was on sale for like $5, something like that. And I just picked it up. I didn't even know what it smelled like. I don't know if I tested it out at the store. It was just on sale and I bought it with another one. And I realized as I've been using this for 2 months, this does smell a lot like La Nuit De L'Homme. This is like a La Nuit De L'Homme body spray. It's not bad. I actually like this. I've been using it. There's like 30% left in this thing. It's almost done. I don't have my La Nuit De L'Homme bottle because it's packed away. I actually have several of them that are packed away, but I do have this decant. This is a La Nuit De L'Homme decant that my buddy Mike made for me. Thanks, Mike, if you're ever watching this. And as you can see, the color looks great. This is not even used that much. There's like a 75–80% left in this 5 ml decant. I'm going to try this out and compare all these fragrances to this and just tell you what I think about them and how they compare. Now, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to open these up and I'm going to wear these for a week and try them out. And after a week, I'll come back and make the video about how these stack up to La Nuit De L'Homme. So I'll see you on the other side of the transition.
Hey guys, Steven here. All right, it's been about a week and a half later since I shot that video. I scrapped the microphone. I'm not using it for this portion of the video. I'm just going to, my face is not important, but my voice is important. Just going to use the built-in mic on my camera here and talk about these fragrances that are similar to Yves Saint Laurent La Nuit De L'Homme. I spent a couple days wearing each one. Try to get as much experience as I can and familiarity with how they smell, what they're like, and to see which ones come close to the experience of wearing La Nuit De L'Homme. So first I'll talk about this one, the La Nuit De L'Homme decant that I have here. My buddy made this in 2000 or 2001, most likely a modern bottle, 2017, 18, 19, something like that. And to be honest, I'm not extremely impressed with this one. It's not a performer at all. This is like a 4-hour, at best is an average performer, and the scent is not even that strong. So I wore this for a couple days as a control to see how these stack up to it. And I sprayed them all on paper. This one too, I sprayed this on paper. I sprayed these about 20 to 30 minutes ago, so they're still fresh on the paper. I can just get reminded of what they smell like, and I do like La Nuit De L'Homme. I didn't at first. It took me some time to get used to it. There was like a learning curve with it. I first heard about La Nuit De L'Homme like a lot of people did. I didn't know about it until Jeremy Fragrance was talking about it on his channel. He had the big 200 ml bottle and he would just swing it around and talk about how it's his favorite seductive fragrance. It's his favorite evening wear fragrance. And then I knew about it, went to eBay, bought a couple samples of it. I bought some of the carded vials and I tried it on, and over a few years, I dated a couple different girls here in Japan and they didn't like it. They just told me that it was like an old man smell. And I was like, I just didn't get it. I got a 2009 bottle. I got a couple of those and they were pretty strong. And I finally got it, that sweet cardamom bomb that it is, La Nuit De L'Homme, and now I like it. So I got past the learning curve. I'm a fan of it now, but this isn't really that great of a sample, but this is all I have to go on. So how do these stack up? Well, let me talk about this one first. This one I forgot that I had. I didn't feature it in the first part of the video. This is a private perfumery in India. I've talked about their line of Projekt alternative fragrances in a couple other videos. You can check the video tab on my channel if you want to see more about this one. This one, I've always liked this one. I was always impressed with black cardamom. This smells like a La Nuit De L'Homme clone of the original 2009, 2010, the original strong formulation of La Nuit De L'Homme. The juice inside has changed. This used to be like a light yellow, and now it's darkened. It's like a dark yellow now, and it still smells great. This one has just monster performance. I would say this is like good 8-hour performer. Now, hand to hand, it doesn't smell exactly like La Nuit De L'Homme, but it's really impressive. I would say this is like 90% similar. To see the differences, you'd have to do a hand-to-hand test, because just smelling this in the air, if you walked by somebody that knows La Nuit De L'Homme, they would say, whoa, you're wearing La Nuit De L'Homme. That's definitely La Nuit De L'Homme. This is really close. It's the cardamom bomb. It's sweet and it's powdery and it's a linear fragrance. What it smells like in the opening is what it smells like 8 hours later. I'm glad I got this. This was a bargain. At this 50 ml bottle was like $5, something like $5 or $6. But I can't really recommend this to you guys. This is a company that's in India. If you buy anything on the website, there is a big chance that the order might have a problem. I can't say too much more about it. I'm still waiting for more fragrances from the company. If I do get another box in, which I hope to get sometime soon, then I'll do another review about this stuff. But this is kind of unfair to show this because you can't really get this. You could try, but I wouldn't take a risk unless you're in India. If you're in India, jump on this one if you want a La Nuit De L'Homme dupe that's cheap and is pretty impressive. Now, this one aside, let's talk about this one. This is Lattafa Ejaazi Intense Silver. Sorry about the glare, guys. This one, some people said on Fragrantica that this resembles La Nuit De L'Homme Bleu Electrique, which is a recent, very popular flanker of La Nuit De L'Homme because it has good performance, supposedly. It has good performance and it has a little bit of freshness to the original La Nuit De L'Homme DNA. So it's not easy to get. The prices are really high because it's kind of rare. The only ones I've seen for sale here on the used market, they're asking like $200 for a used bottle. So I'm not even gonna touch it. Ejaazi Silver, when I wore this for a couple days, I was not impressed by this. All right, there's a reason why it's $15 on Fragrance X. Fragrance X is not a cheap website, even with the discount. With the discount, it prices things about what they should be priced, as opposed to the full retail price. And this one, yeah, when you spray it on, you get a hint of cardamom, you get a hint of that La Nuit De L'Homme DNA, but that's like the first minute or two. After a couple minutes goes by, it starts to dry down. The next note you get is a fresh note. And I've looked on Fragrantica. I can't figure out exactly what that fresh note is, and I've tried for a week to think of a good way to describe it. Can't figure out how to describe that fresh note except for this way. If you were to cut a cucumber open, or if you were to slice up a stick of celery, sliced cucumber, if you can imagine that fresh smell, that's the fresh smell I get from this. And I mean that in a good way, not in a bad way. But that's not La Nuit De L'Homme. This is like a tiny bit of La Nuit De L'Homme with like fresh celery. So this one is just kind of weird. Not a bad scent, but abysmal performance. And we're talking about average performance. This is the poster child of average performance for a new fragrance. Yeah, they've only been open for about a week and a half. Maybe it'll change or develop over time. Like I said, there's a reason why it's 15 bucks. After 20 minutes, you can barely smell it anymore. So like, I have no use for this. It does not stack up at all to anything that is an alternative to Nuit De L'Homme. That's that one. All right, Ted Lapidus Poker Face is what this is. And let me tell you, out of all of these, this one is the biggest disappointment. Very disappointing with this. I had high hopes for this one. I had a handful of YouTubers, or I watched a handful of YouTubers' videos about Poker Face and how this was some kind of hidden gem that smells just like Nuit De L'Homme. You can't tell the difference and nobody knows about it and it's so great. Man, is this overrated. I'll tell you. I sprayed this one on and I'll tell you what this smells like. Does it smell like Nuit De L'Homme? Kind of. I mean, it's like 70% like Nuit De L'Homme. That might be good for you, but for me, that's to me, 80% and above is a worthy, somewhat worthy clone. Anything under 80, if I say 70%, it's similar, but it's just not an alternative to Nuit De L'Homme. It's just like you're wearing Nuit De L'Homme or you're wearing something that is like from the dollar shop. That's like Nuit De L'Homme. The price was not really that cheap in my mind. This was like $35, something like that. And I got it on Fragrance X, and I actually bought a few of them, and I'm really disappointed because what this smells like is a very sweet version of a weak Nuit De L'Homme, and it reminds me a lot of this other fragrance I have right here. Have you guys heard of Ferragamo Uomo Signature? This is a gem of a fragrance. The whole Uomo line, I think, is actually really underrated. They're all made by Alberto Marias. I'm just going to go off for a minute about this line. I think these are the best value for a good designer fragrance. Ferragamo fragrances are generally priced low anyway, but the people say that this smells like coffee or tiramisu, and I don't get that with this. The original one, that definitely smells like a tiramisu coffee dessert type gourmand fragrance. This one, I get two things. I get candy sweetness and leather. So this to me is like a candied leather. A lot of leather fragrances do have a sweet note in it, whether it's a raspberry or a cherry or a rose. This one just smells like Smarties candies. You guys know what Smarties candies are? Do you remember them on Halloween, getting them? If you can imagine like a leather jacket and the pocket is filled with Smarties candies and you're smelling that, that's what I get with this. It's like super strong. The performance is fantastic. This is like at least 8 hours. I sprayed this on once and one of my coworkers is like, my brain is hurting from that fragrance. It's so strong, she told me. It's like a mix of this sweetness, Ferragamo Uomo Signature, and a little bit of Nuit De L'Homme. If you put them together and strip out all the performance, this thing is like a 4-hour fragrance at best. To me, this is like an $18 fragrance. It should be. This should not be any more than $24.99, 25 bucks. If you guys buy this and you're expecting it to be just like Nuit De L'Homme, this is like a very weak version of Nuit De L'Homme with a little bit of candied sweetness to it. So big disappointment with Poker Face. Another disappointing thing about it is now the YouTubers that I watched that said that this was great, you know, I used to think that their opinion was a lot similar to my nose. Now I have to kind of doubt a lot of their other reviews, although, you know, all of us have different noses. And by the way, what I'm telling you now is just my nose in particular. I'm no expert with this. Definitely, this is just my opinion of how these smell. Let's get to these two. Finally, this one. This is a recent hype beast. This is called Lattafa Al Nashama Caprice. Did I say that right? Al Nashama Caprice? I guess so. It's a weird looking bottle. This is kind of like a fake plastic marble design. But to be honest, it's actually not that bad. It's just the cap is just kind of weird. It's a pretty sturdy bottle. And the cap works pretty well. The information is right there. This is an eau de parfum concentration. This one's eau de toilette, and this one's an eau de parfum. By the way, this one is an extrait de parfum. And this one's pretty good. This one is Nuit De L'Homme. It's a richer Nuit De L'Homme. It has a little bit of freshness in it. And if this is supposedly a clone of Bleu Electrique, then I can imagine it is. There's a little bit of freshness in it. The performance is pretty good. This is a 6 to 8 hour performer. That's what I got from this. And this is worthy of being an alternative to La Nuit De L'Homme or La Nuit De L'Homme Electrique, as I imagine. When this came out, it was priced a little bit higher than what I wanted to pay for it. It was like $45, something like that. And then it got on Best Brands Perfume. And then he gave like a 50% off deal. And I got this for like 18 bucks. I actually bought a few of these and brought these back to Japan. And at 18 or even $20, this is a great alternative to La Nuit De L'Homme. I would say this is worth anywhere up to about 30 bucks I'd pay for one of these. What I don't have that's very popular is the one that's called the Jack of Clubs. I believe it's Fragrance World, Jack of Clubs. That one a year ago was a real hype beast because that's a Blue Electrique clone. That's another one that was like $45 at the time, and I couldn't get it in Japan. I've never seen that sold, even used. I've never seen that sold in Japan. So I couldn't get it then. And when I went to USA earlier this year, again, it was like 40 bucks, and I didn't want to pay $39.99 for that. In my mind, these clones, I would never pay more than 30 bucks. That's the most I'll pay for these clones. And then when I came back to Japan, the price all of a sudden dropped. Now, Jack of Clubs is on Best Brands Perfume. It's 20 bucks now. It's $19.99. And I think I bought one, but I don't have it. It's in the USA. So I can't judge. I just heard that it's also very good, and it's a little bit lighter than this one. But most of the YouTubers say that this one and Jack of Clubs is actually pretty good, those two. Which leaves me to this one, this last one here. This is a designer, Guess. This bottle is pretty cool. This is called Guess Seductive Homme Bleu. This is kind of interesting. The cap kind of spins around and it snaps off and snaps on. Found this one used online not too long ago, a couple months ago. And the reason I bought it, I don't know anything about it, but the reason I bought it was the price was so low on a clean bottle that's barely been used. This is like more than 95% full. 100 ml bottle. This, I believe, is an eau de toilette. And I think it was like 2,000 yen. And then it went down to 1,800 yen. And at that point I said, you know what? I'm just going to pull the trigger blind buy. It was like $12. And when I smelled it, I said, you know what? This is a little bit like La Nuit De L'Homme. That's what this is. They're going for the La Nuit De L'Homme DNA. And it wasn't until recently when I compared it to all these other ones that I realized this is pretty good. This might be the biggest surprise, pleasant surprise of this whole batch here, because this was highly hyped and it was great. This is hyped, not great, and nobody really talks about this, but there's nothing special about this. And this is just fragrance from India that's really good. This is really good, guys. So this, if there was a competition, I would say this is kind of the winner, because this is the closest to La Nuit De L'Homme that I could find that's halfway decent. It smells a lot like it. I'd say this is like 85 to 90% similar in smell to the La Nuit De L'Homme. Performance-wise, it's also similar to a modern batch of La Nuit De L'Homme. This is just a 4-hour fragrance. It's average performance. But these are like, what, $20 or 25 bucks on eBay for a designer fragrance. I guess isn't really a famous fragrance designer, but still a designer that's out there that's pretty popular. I know that Guess Jeans was really popular in the 90s when I was in high school and university. But this one's really good, and I mentioned it also in the beginning of the video. I happened to find this really cheap. This was like $5 at Walgreens. This is La Nuit De L'Homme in body spray form. So I'm impressed with this. I'm impressed with this one. Don't get your hopes up that high, but for 20 bucks or 25 bucks, you spray the shit out of this one, and you are like 90% there with a modern batch of La Nuit De L'Homme. I wouldn't buy this unless you can find it for less than 25 bucks, and don't get your hopes up high. You're gonna get something that's like this mixed with La Nuit De L'Homme. And this I wouldn't even bother even for 15 bucks. And that's all there is to this video, guys. This was my impression of these fragrances and how they stack up to La Nuit De L'Homme. Hope you liked the video, guys. Let me know down below what you think of any of these fragrances. What do you think is the best La Nuit De L'Homme dupe or inspiration or alternative that you've tried? Hit the like button and give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and subscribe if you want to see more discontinued, vintage, rare and interesting fragrances. There's some times where I just want to open up bottles and tell you what I think about them. Hope you guys have a great day out there. Thank you for sticking this one out, watching the whole video. If you made it to the end, really appreciate it. And until the next video, take care.